Our headlines for today. Drone attack kills 3 civilians and injures many more in Hiwana in southeastern Tigray. State Council of Tigray declares 3 days of national mourning in honor of victims of the airstrikes across Tigray. Hello, I'm here with the hour's news from Tigray TV. I'm Mary Nimana, will be reading the news for you today. Stay tuned. Proceeding to the details. It's been weeks since the government of Tigray withdrew its forces from the neighboring regions to demonstrate its commitment to peaceful resolution of the conflict. The Ethiopian government, on the other hand, has continued to bombard civilian settings across different parts of Tigray, killing and injuring hundreds of civilians in northwestern Tigray just this past week. The bombardments have continued this week as well, with an airstrike in Hiwana, southeastern Tigray, killing 3 civilians and injuring several more. Bethele Mayela has more on this.
Airstrikes have been occurring all around Tigray, targeting residential areas and civilians throughout the year-long deadly war. Hiwana, a town located in southern zone of Tigray, has been
Children were killed. We couldn't attend the funeral of our mother. My siblings don't even know about her death because of the transportation blockade and communication blackout. We even couldn't tell them. None of them attended her funeral. Our mother is buried in our absence as if she was childless.
I didn't even sit there for more than 5 minutes. I just arrived. Since the drone hit the area, I was unconscious for some minutes. After I woke up, I saw that the 2 women that were next to me were killed. Luckily, I survived, and I was taken to the hospital. My spinal cord is badly injured, and my head is swollen.
It
is civilians that lost their lives due to the attack. But this is not a battlefield. As you can see, this was hit by the drone, and we lost civilian people. Sadly enough, this is not peculiar to the area. It is happening all over Tigray. The residents called on international community to take pragmatic action on Abiy Ahmed's government to stop the drone attacks that are occurring all around the region, targeting innocent civilians.
We were hoping that the international community would take action and stop them by now, but they didn't do anything about it. Yet, we still call on them to take actions and help us.
The international community hasn't done anything except explaining their concerns, but we need more than that. We need them to take pragmatic actions.
The Ethiopian government has been bombarding many cities and villages all around Tigray, killing and injuring hundreds of civilians. Earlier this week, the Regional Council of Tigray, on its latest meeting, has declared 3 days of national mourning from January 13 up to January 15 to commemorate the victims of the series of horrific aerial bombardments throughout Tigray.
Tigray State Council declared 3 days of national mourning to honor victims of the airstrikes by Ethiopian forces in Dedabit, Alamata, Korem, and Ma'ala and other areas in the region, as well as victims of the Ab'ala massacre in Afar. According to a statement issued by the State Council, the national days of mourning will fall between January 13 and 15. The Ethiopian government has conducted several airstrikes on civilian infrastructures and in urban settings, with hundreds of civilians losing their lives in the past week alone. The blockade of essential items such as food and medical supplies has had a devastating impact on children in Tigray. Our reporters visit Edaga Arbi in central Tigray, where health professionals say 27 children have died due to malnutrition in the past 6 months alone. Fani Lemiru has more on this.
Edaga Arbi is just 55 kilometers from the historical city of Aksum in central Tigray. Like everywhere else in Tigray, the immense of occupation by Ethiopian and Eritrean forces has meant distraction and horror for its residents. For over 6 months now, the Ethiopian government has imposed an all-encompassing siege on Tigray, blocking medication and medical supplies for millions that are in desperate need. Atsada Gabramedin and Kidana Mariam Oldehannes are residents of Edaga Arbi. They suffer from diabetes and are now unable to access to much-needed medication.
We are using expired medication because we are in desperate need.
There are more than 200 people in the need of insulin, but there is not enough supply to satisfy the needs of these patients. As a result, we are now bedriddled and some of the patients are even dying.
I myself am diabetic, but I feel worse for the children and young people. Children and young people with so much potential for the future are at brink of death, and there's nothing that can be done about it.
Girmay Marsha, health professional at Adaga Arabi Hospital, says that the hospital has so far lost 34 diabetic patients due to lack of medication.
There are 439 children suffering from severe acute malnutrition, with more than 4,000 children starving and unable to get medical treatment. We've lost 34 diabetic patients due to lack of insulin, with 27 children dead due to malnutrition.
The patients called on the international community to play its part to end the siege on Tigray and ensure that the millions in need of emergency assistance and medical care are able to get the help they so desperately need.
It's very saddening that the world had failed to take decisive action to end the genocidal deeds of the Ethiopian government and its allies. They are using hunger as a weapon of war. They have blocked every possible road that leads into Tigray so that aid couldn't reach those in desperate need.
I call on the international community to pressure the government of Abiy Ahmed to end the siege. The statements of concern are not making any difference.
On January 8, 2022, the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, stated that his organization has not been permitted to provide medical supplies into Tigray since mid-July 2021.
The blockade of banking services has devastated communities across Tigray. Millions of Tigrayans across the state have been blocked from accessing their lifetime savings for over 6 months now. Haile Garu reports.
For the past 6 months and counting, the people of Tigray have been under a complete blockade with no access. For the past 6 months and counting, the people of Tigray have been under a complete blockade with no access to even the essential goods, including food aid and medical supplies, being allowed into the region. This 6-month-long siege had been preceded by the over 13-month-long occupation of Tigray by hostile armies that systematically destroyed banks and blocked their services. Residents of Magala told to Tigray television that they are suffering from starvation that has been worsened due to the deliberate blockade of banking services across Tigray.
Commerce may cease if there is no bank and money. At this time, there is no exchange of commodities in Tigray because banks have been closed for over a year. No supply lines are opened up to import commodities into Tigray. This has been intentionally done to exterminate Tigrayans from the surface of the earth.
The banking officers have told us that there is no money in the bank. Personally, I have a 4-year-old child who is suffering from diabetics. My child couldn't get the treatment he needed because I couldn't access the money I saved in the banks. I'm waiting here since 6 a.m. in the morning, but there is no solution at all. We are at brink of death. There is no humanitarian aid due to the blockade too. Children and mothers are dying due to starvation and lack of medical supplies.
The plights of the people of Tigray have been worsening due to the genocidal all-encompassing siege. Residents of Magala do tell that the problems that they have facing are severe, yet the international community is failing to understand the depth and the magnitude of the total blockades as well as the overall genocidal war.
It's very devastating. It's us who know the extent of the problem that we are facing, not others. It's been troublesome to live under siege for over half a year. We have savings in banks. However, we are starving to death. Those who have enough savings couldn't help others due to the blockade of the banking service. We plead to the international community to take action against Abiy Ahmed's government so that banking services will be resumed in Tigray.
We are in desperate situation. We couldn't get medication at the time of sickness. We couldn't access our savings and buy something to eat in the face of deadly starvation. Banks have been left empty. They cannot provide us money.
Magala residents also called on to Tigray diaspora community to firmly expose for the Ethiopian government any allies about the gross human rights violations and genocide that have been taking place in Tigray. They have also added that the international community must put due pressure on Abiy Ahmed's government to open up all the social services and humanitarian corridors as soon as possible.
As a result of more than 6 months-long seizure imposed on Tigray, medical supplies in the region have been depleted. Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital was one of the leading hospitals in the country, but now doctors say the hospital is unable to provide even the most basic medical services. Our reporter Salome Tigrai has more on this.
Last week, Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital announced that it can only provide just 17% of necessary drugs and that the hospital has run out of very basic medical equipment such as gloves, IV fluids, and antibiotics. But this is not where Eider Hospital's story starts. Eider is one of the largest referral hospitals in the country and has been in operation for over 14 years. It has treated over 10 million people from across the country, including Tigray, Afar, and the Amhara region. The hospital had been providing medical supplies to several primary hospitals located across the vicinities and districts in Tigray. It has also more than 50 international partners that have been supporting the hospital with research and education as well as medical equipment. Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital has been providing a wide range of services including chemotherapy and mammography services that are rare in the country and increasing its capacity to provide treatment by thousands each year, as the number of medics and type of medical services provided has continued to show a rapid increase. Eider was one of the leading teaching hospitals in the country, doing research aimed at developing new methods of technologies for treating patients suffering from different illnesses. Maternal mortality had rapidly reduced, with mothers and infants able to access quality maternal care.
We were one of among the best institutions in the country, so we were striving for excellence in patient care, community service, teaching, and research. So we had fairly good enough resources, which were enough to serve our patients well. So some of the figures, the maternal death rate was around 10 per annum, per year, 10 to 15. Stillbirth around 100. Antenatal care coverage was close to 100%. And delivery, we were able to serve 6,000 delivering mothers in a year, which is a catchment of 10 million people. So these were the figures. We were in a good stand and in a good position to serve and care our patients.
Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital, under the governance of Moghale University College of Health Sciences, was one of the most rapidly growing tertiary care hospitals in the country since it became operational a decade ago, and the institution had the responsibility of rendering patient care, training medical and health science students as well as researchers. The hospital has been providing wide range services for people from Tigray, some part of Amhara and Afar regions, as well as people from Eritrea, and the hospital has some of the services in this hospital are only found in this hospital, and no other health facility in the Tigray region has the capacity comparable with Eider.
Eider Hospital and its doctors had big aspirations, including the establishment of a cancer center and provide chemotherapy that would have been able to treat thousands of patients.
Our hospital had a big plan on cancer care. So around 7 or 8 years back, it was planned to have a big comprehensive cancer care center here in Eider. And it's a 6-story huge building, which was started at that time. And so this center was planned to have a radiation center there, including chemotherapy, nuclear medicine services, surgery, pathology services, even bone marrow transplantation was planned in this building.
At our hospital today is on a completely different track. A deliberate attack on Tigray's health system and a 6-month-long siege that has blocked all essential items, including medical supplies, has devastated a once promising institution.
After the war broke out, all our aspirations and hopes fade away, and we are like days tell us. We are counting maternal days, day in, day out. The number of maternal days has significantly increased, alarmingly increased, fourfold. So we have hit 30 mark 1 month back, and we are having more and more of maternal days. So several mothers are dying in their prime age, and the mothers are dying because they don't know better care, not because they don't know the better care, but because of multiple barriers. So those mothers are dying not only of known causes, but also of injustice.
Eider Comprehensive Specialized Hospital was also the only center giving dialysis services to patients from the entire Tigray and parts of the Afar and Amhara regions for the past 8 years.
The dialysis service in Eider Referral Hospital is now, it had been almost 8 years since it was established. It was established in April 2013, and since then more than 400 patients has been benefited from this service. And this is the only service that we have for a catchment population of 9 million people, which includes all the population of Tigray and the districts of neighboring regions, including Afar and also Amhara, northern Amhara region. The dialysis service in Eider has never been interrupted for the last 8 years since establishment. But since last year, since November 2020, where the war in Tigray has broke out, a lot of problems has happened. There is a significant death rate, significant mortality. Deaths among our dialysis patients has increased this year from 20%, 25% up to 45% this year. And patients who have discontinued their dialysis therapy, those patients who were already started before, now they have discontinued this year. More than 10 patients have discontinued their therapy, and they have lost follow-up. And this year, especially since the complete siege has occurred for the last 6 months, more than 35 patients have lost their follow-up, have lost their days because we couldn't dialyze them.
A systematic attack by Ethiopian and Eritrean forces on Tigray's health system, one of the best in the developing world, has led it to complete collapse, endangering not just the present, but health and well-being of generations to come.
There are over 2 million internally displaced persons across Tigray. Many of those displaced are now finding it impossible to access basics such as food and medical supplies. Our reporters visited an IDP camp in Adagarwi, central Tigray, where they observed the dire circumstance of these communities. Fani Limuru has the report.
There are over 6.8 million people in need of emergency assistance in Tigray, of which over 2 million are internally displaced persons forcibly displaced from their homes, their wealth, and source of income. We visited a camp in Adagarwi, central Tigray, where IDPs say lack of food and medical supplies has put their lives in danger.
I didn't bring anything with me except for the clothes on my back. We are living like animals. We are drinking from the rivers. They give our family just one blanket for 7 people. We're sleeping on cardboard. We're only alive because people in Adagarwi help us. We are always worried whether food will come or not, and whether me and my children will survive this. We ran to save our lives. We didn't take anything with us. We're suffering a lot. We're sleeping on cardboard. We don't even have money to buy groceries. We are miserable. We had a home and a source of income, but we have nothing now. As you can see, we have no medication and food. We are in a dangerous situation. If no one helps us within the coming 2 weeks, things will get much worse. We have nowhere to sleep and no food to eat. We can't wash ourselves, and we have no clothes that we can change into. We are suffering from skin infections, and even if we go to the clinic, there is no medications. We are in grave danger if we don't receive help soon.
Takhala Burhan Mesfin is an official in Ndabat Ahmad district. He says that there are more than 21,000 IDP in Adagarwi who are finding it impossible to get by as the siege on Tigray continues to tighten.
There are more than 21,000 IDPs who are finding it impossible to fulfill very basics. They have received assistance just once since June. It has been very difficult for them. Locals are the ones bringing them food. There are some that can't even move because of the hunger. The residents of the city were doing all they can to support them. However, now there is no one to help them. They are now on the verge of death.
This is to the international community. We need you to help us get money and food aid. We are starving and suffering.
While international organizations have issued repeated statements on the humanitarian crisis in Tigray, they have yet to take any assertive action to compel the Ethiopian government to stop the siege on Tigray and allow food and medication to the millions in need.
A systematic attack on Tigray's key infrastructures, especially its health facilities, is leading to suffering of millions across the state. Our reporter, Aragawi Garamkail, visited the Art Center at Mala Hospital and had a brief stay with patients that say that the lack of medical supplies and banking services has led them to brink of death.
Mekelle Hospital is the first hospital that started the ART case team for people living with HIV/AIDS in Tigray. The center used to provide services for more than 9,000 patients, including patients from neighboring Afar and Amhara regions. Currently, the ART Center is unable to provide service for its HIV-positive patients due to the depletion of medical supplies at the hospital. Dr. Iman Gabramadan, a general doctor at the ART case team, says Mekelle Hospital has been forced to discontinue much of its services.
تستفعل عينة ART service زوجها والله بريب نولنا هذا patient هذا سب إيش أدمي متقعو خوش درجبوا مدحني تلا.
We used to provide multiple services to our patients. We used to be able to have PrEP follow-ups for patients that had only recently been infected, and we used to deliver PEP services for people that have been infected with the virus. This has endangered the lives of many of our patients, and those yet infected are at great risk. More and more people are getting infected now.
Salam Abraha is an HIV-positive mother. She learned about her status over 14 years ago. But with the help of medication and healthcare services she has been receiving at Mekelle Hospital, she says she had been able to lead a normal and healthy life.
I came here to take antiretroviral treatment, but they could only give me medication that could last me 2 weeks. And they told me that there's no more medicine, so it's very difficult. The medicine I took is called 1A, and it's finished. My friend who used to take ART medicine has become paralyzed as his medicine was no longer available at Mekelle Hospital. Now he can't help his family and his children. We are all in a critical condition.
People like Alam Nashbarha are living in fear as lack of medication has already started to affect their daily lives and is sure to get worse.
I'm going to be sick, and if I get sick, I won't be able to afford medication that doctors prescribe. This has actually happened. Recently, I was sick and slept at the hospital, but as I was not able to cover my medical expenses, I was forced to beg money from other people.
Sister Hiwat Aragu, a coordinator of ART case team at Mekelle Hospital, said the current condition is not only difficult for her patients but also for health officials that has been traumatized by the experience of seeing patients suffering from easily preventable illnesses.
We too are affected because we've been treating our patients for years. We're like family with most of them. We know every detail about our patients. Knowing we can't help them is a very painful experience. It's like being a mother that can do nothing for her child, that is starving but cry with him. All our education and dedication means nothing when we can't access medical supplies.
Ababa Gide is one of the long-served health officials in the ART case team at Mekelle Hospital. She said that it's being impossible to find patients due to the communication blackout that has lasted for over 6 months now.
HIV department ተገልገልቱ በአግባቡ እዩ ለሕዝ እዚ ኩል ከለኹ እንድሕር ዳጠፊኦም ብስልክን ከምኡ ኸድካ በአካል በመምጻእ ኢኻ ናፍቲ ግልጋሎት ትምልሶም ነርካ.
The ART case team used to have a proper follow-up for its patients, But due to the ongoing siege, including the lack of communication and transportation services, we are unable to find our missing patients. Currently, we have more than 300 patients, and we presume some of them have passed away.
Dr. Philemon Masfan, the Chief Executive Officer of Mekelle Hospital, said that it has become very difficult for HIV-positive patients who have to travel long distance to receive medication that can only last them 2 weeks.
HIV patients, normally it's a standard to give an HIV patient, if he or she is in a normal condition, we can give them up to 6 months time of medications. We call it appointment spacing model. Currently, we are not able to give our patients more than 2 weeks or 1 month worth of medications. So you can imagine how much time they have to come back to the hospital to get their medications. We have patients coming from the far areas, from rural areas. There is no any transportation right now. When we give them 2 weeks time of medications, though they have to return back after 2 weeks. That means, so you can imagine how this kind of condition is affecting our people, not only in the health sector, but you can see the many perspectives economically and socially, how our people's life is being disrupted. So it's really, really hard to work under this kind of siege and blockage in my time as a doctor or as an official managing the hospital. I have never imagined we would be in such kind of positions, and I've never even read or seen in the history that any country in the world have faced such kind of conditions.
For the last 6 months, the Ethiopian government has imposed an all-encompassing siege on Tigray that has discontinued all basic services and blocked all essential goods, including food and medical supplies.
The Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, says that the conflict cannot be used as an excuse to hinder entry of medical supplies and other goods, and that the international community has the responsibility to end the blockade in Tigray. The Director General also called for peaceful resolution to the conflict.
The situation is serious. Nowhere in the world you would find a crisis like what you see in the northern part of Ethiopia, especially in Tigray. None. Nowhere in the world are we witnessing hell like in Tigray. And the international community has to do everything. The basics is to have unfettered access, whether it's food or medicine. Humanitarian access should be allowed at all times, even during conflict. Even conflict cannot be an excuse, because we're delivering medicine in conflict areas while the conflict is raging. So that place cannot be different. And then the other part, of course, this thing should be resolved politically, peacefully. If there is a commitment to resolve it peacefully, there is a way. There is a way to resolve it peacefully and politically. And we know that just respecting the constitutional order, the Constitution, would bring this problem into a peaceful conclusion. And the most courageous choose peace. So ultimately, it's a political solution or peace, which is the answer. But as I speak now, we're deeply concerned from WHO side. We have tried all our best, but we're blocked from sending medicines to Tigray, Ethiopia. And that's so dreadful and unimaginable during this time, 21st century, when a government is denying its own people for more than a